So the movie I chose to analyze is The Shawshank Redemption. It's a film made in 1994. It's a relatively old film, but it's a brilliant film in my humble opinion. And I don't like this genre of movies. Like it's a thriller. What would you call it, a thriller? Drama? I don't even know. But I like gangster movies. I like movies like Boys in the Hood. I like movies like Menace to Society. I like movies like Goodfellas. I like movies like that. Oh, mobster movies and stuff like that. I love that kind of action. So for me to like a movie like this, it really grabbed my attention. You know, I can watch that movie 30 times over, and I recognize that it's a thinking man's movie, and I recognize that the dialogue plays a huge part in it. You know, it's a very eventful movie, but some of the events you won't be able to keep up with unless you keep up with the dialogue, because the words in and of itself tell a story. And I'm gonna just hop right into it. The dialogue, although the events they make the movie. Obviously, we have to have events to have a movie. We have to have a story told through events to have a movie. But there's so much of the story that's told through the dialogue. You can tell the characters developing. And Andy Dufresne kind of drops hints every now and again to what his plan is, his ultimate plan to escape prison. So it's very, 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 very important. And the whole story is kind of summed up in a few quotes here. When Andy Dufresne and Red are first talking, they first meet on the prison yard, and Red is talking to Andy Dufresne, and he says, "Hope is a dangerous thing, my friend. Hope can drive a man insane." Red is a cynic. Red doesn't have hope. Red, there's a little bit of hope in him, but it's very lost and it's very suffocated by the confounds of institutionalism. He's in prison, and he's been in prison for years due to a murder. Now, this is a double protagonist movie. These two are the two main characters in the whole movie. You can't have one without the other. You can't have the development of one without the other. You need both. The influence of Red, you see the influence of Red on Andy Dufresne and vice versa. And I'll explain Red's influence on Andy, but first Andy Dufresne's influence on Red, because the inverse of the "hope can drive a man insane" quote is at the end of the movie. This is Red's last quote, and this is the end quote of the movie right here. It says, "I find I'm so excited I can barely sit still or hold a thought in my head. I think it's the excitement only a free man can feel. A free man at the start of a long journey whose conclusion is uncertain. I hope I can make it across the border. I hope to see my friend and shake his hand. I hope the Pacific is as blue as it's been in my dreams. I hope." It's his last words. The same person that said hope can drive a man insane, the last word of the movie is "I hope." So that tells you the influence that Andy Dufresne has, and I know that Andy Dufresne has that influence on him because he says, forget that. Early on in the movie, under different circumstances, he says, forget that. There are places in this world that aren't made out of stone. Then there's something inside that they can't get to, that they can't touch, that's yours. And this is the night before he breaks out of prison. He was talking to Red, a very passionate, one of the most passionate scenes you see Andy Dufresne in. As a matter of fact, he's a man of great temperament. You know, a very even man. He doesn't get too excited or too lowly at all. And that's one of the most passionate times you see him, and you can tell he's fed up. You can tell he's like, this is enough. And then Red, you can tell Red, you know, Red's role in the movie is he gets things. Andy Dufresne says, I understand you're a man who knows how to get things. And that's what he does. He gets things from the outside and brings them in for people. He's crooked, you know, and he goes to the officer to get them. And Andy Dufresne, after explaining to Red how to completely just make up a person and be that person, if you can have all the documents, you can be a person, doesn't even exist. He explained the whole process to Red, and at the end of that process, he tells Red this. He says, it's funny. On the outside, I was an honest man, straight as an arrow. I had to come to prison to be a crook. And I guess that's prison has had its influence on him as well, but Red being who he is, and they've grown close, of course, you know, birds of a feather flock together. So the dialogue here tells a story. This movie, and for the second time, I can't go into all the quotes that I have and that I love in this whole movie. But this movie is a movie of hope. You know, it communicates a message of hope. It tells us, you know, by Andy Dufresne saying that you know, it's something inside you that they can't touch, that's yours. you catch one of the guards in one of the scenes saying, you pee when we tell you to pee, and you talk when we tell you to talk, kind of thing. And he said that the guard said that to Andy Dufresne. So the fact that Andy said that, there's something they can't touch. That's yours. He was kind of alluding to how even within the confines of prison, there's somewhere that's still free inside of you, and that is touching. It's a really touching, very touching story. And I'll leave you with this last quote by Red after he's described. He's going back and narrating to the audience how Andy broke out of jail, and he says, Andy Dufresne, who crawled through a river of crap and came out clean on the other side. And that's figuratively and literally, because he literally went through the sewers under the prison and crawled through a bunch of crap to get to the other side. But figuratively, Andy was accused of murders he didn't commit, was beaten and raped by a group of men in jail when he first got there. Had to be, over and over and over again. And he came out clean, and a free man on the other side, a rich man, in the city of Zawatanehal, which is what it's called in the movie. So it's, very, very beautiful story. If you have not seen that movie, I strongly encourage you to go get that and go see it. You will not be disappointed.